We're going to kind of step outside of Exodus and look at a couple of things. Just really kind of end of the year and start of the year, exciting things to think through, changes that have happened, momentum that has been built, and all those kinds of things. So many of you know, as you think through who are the elders of Second Mile, myself and Scott Appleman and Nate Edwards and Eric Kelly have been very much part of that team for a long time. It's really interesting as I've continued to read books about leadership that a phrase that I have begun to really adopt is a phrase really of letting go of what God is going to do and to not try to hold on to it myself. And it's a phrase that's very simple, and it's a phrase called "for now." That for now, God equips people and moves people in different areas and utilizes those people in huge ways, and then oftentimes transitions them out of that role into another role. And so Eric Kelly, who's been an elder for quite some time here at Second Mile, is transitioning from a more pastoral role, which is what an elder role really is like, into more of an administrative role, especially when it comes to the area of finances. And so Eric has been and continues to be a vital part of what we do here at Second Mile, especially in the area of budget. And with his family schedule and his work schedule and just the way things were, he really felt God was leading him in that direction, and definitely affirmed by me and thoughts and prayers of just what is God doing in his life. So he is transitioning and has transitioned at the start of this year. So he will come out of the role of elder and much more into an area where he continues to be gifted, and he was doing it even as he was an elder, but now he won't be as distracted. I don't know. But he's a valid and huge part of what we do with Second Mile. So he's going to come up and talk to us a little bit about just how did we end 2011 and where we're headed in 2012. And this is really a time of reasons to celebrate. Why do we worship God? We'll hear some of those reasons.
All right, so it's always just a huge privilege and honor to get to talk a little bit about money and giving and what has been going on, what continues to go on, and what will continue in the future. And what I typically really like to do with these types of discussions is always kind of start with just a reminder of kind of what all this is about before we jump into numbers and things like that. So to put it plainly, our goal when we think about giving really, I think, can be sort of summarized by trying to embody the heart of Jesus. And what I mean by that is that before the creation of the world, Jesus existed with infinite wealth. And out of that, he chose to give of himself, and not just of himself, but give himself completely into the world in a very broken way, so that his infinite wealth would be spread and the world would be restored and brought back together in line with the way God created it to be. And so when we jump in and get to participate, when we are given wealth, when we're given resources, however big or small they are, and we have the opportunity to steward those resources and give those resources and manage those resources, we tap into that and we participate with Jesus in that giving of his wealth to the world so that the world is put back together. And so with that in mind, when we talk about money, we end up in a few broad themes that are all over the scriptures and consequently all over our lives today. And those three broad streams that I like to talk about are the idea of regular committed giving. Okay, so that's, practically speaking, when we give money undesignated through this body, that's what I'm talking about. And we do it in a regular and committed fashion. So that's the first stream that we think about. Second is strategic special efforts. So from time to time, there are very specific, focused things that we need to attend to, that God asks us to attend to. We participate in those as well. And then the third is what I like to call just living with margin in our own budgets. And so that's basically, after giving, after taxes, after spending, after everything, we intentionally plan for extra room in our budgets, so that when little things or big things come around, we have the ability to participate. So we have the ability to give instantaneously if given the opportunity. So those are the three types of things that we find ourselves discussing quite often. And so today it's great. I get to talk about kind of how we did as a body in 2011. And I can't talk a whole lot about the third, and it's intentional that we can't talk a lot about the third because that's sort of invisible. I know lots of people buy a lot of people lunches and clothes and things like that, and that's great. But there are some things that I can talk about that are really exciting. So let's just start with that regular giving category. So every year there's a budget, there's a stated goal at the beginning of the year. And this is a calendar year, sort of what we need to make it. And so our stated goal for 2011 was $110,000. So that was the annual goal for undesignated gifts. And so I looked today and I've got pretty much the final numbers, and our I have a typo on my slide. I am a college professor, so you know that I often have typos in my slides, especially in my class. You know that I don't. So the next line, the approximate 2011 giving was $122,000. So we were, Brad, you are amazing. I did not have a typo on my slide. So we can celebrate, because look at that, that's an extra $12,000. That's an extra $1,000 a month. So just think about what it would be like if you, as an individual, got your budget planned out, and you all of a sudden get $1,000 a month raise. Wow, that's pretty neat. That's sort of what happened with our regular giving this past year. Now, there's a few things that I wanted to just list as accomplishments, things we were able to do this year. First and foremost, we were able to meet every operational need that we had. Just the nuts and bolts of things we do. Payroll, rent, supplies, things like that. And we shouldn't take this lightly. This is really something to celebrate. In this current economy, in this current town, that's, for a church this size, with this, age demographic makeup, to be able to say, we cleared all the operational needs, and we're really never in jeopardy of not making payroll, things like that. That's a big deal, and that's something to, that's definitely something to celebrate. Some other things listed here, and the rest of these are really sort of in the missional categories. So $4,200 went to, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, this went to the college student trip to MQ this summer. Now, this line, this was budgeted church funds. So this just came out of the general giving, out of the $122,000. $4,200 went to support that trip. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later. We had several other missional efforts we can talk about if you're curious, but that number totaled about $7,200. So we're up over $10,000, $11,000 there. Seeds Community Center has been at the forefront of a lot of conversations here in the last 6 months. We were able to give $500 in startup funds for that, which were necessary just to get the ball rolling in many ways. And then Eric and Deja, who are in Tijuana, working in a feeding center with an organization called Outside the Bowl. Second Mile was able to give out of regular contribution $100 a month this year, so $1,200 to them. And I'll also talk about them a little bit more later. And then finally, that last bullet is huge. We ended the year with about $32,000 in the bank. And so that serves as a cushion going forward, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment as well. So that was the regular giving. Now, the special efforts category. There were a few things that we did this year, but the one that I wanted to mention now is in the area of global missions. And so this number here that you see is based on gifts to or through Second Mile that were in excess of the regular giving. And so for global efforts, we had a 5-digit number. Great. 11,100 is just great to see that. And so what do we do with that money? So that money most of it went toward the NQ trip as well. So the $4,200 that was spent out of budget, much of this money went alongside that. And then it also went alongside with other monies that were raised from outside supporters. And then there was also enough left over from that $11,100 to give an extra $1,800 to the Huxleys at year end in December, so to help them out with some extra needs. Other things happened with the strategic special efforts, but that's the one that I wanted to mention. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention in terms of giving was a little bit about this living within margin idea. So now, again, I can't say here's what everyone did because I'm not supposed to be a. That's kind of the way these things work. But there is one thing I can say. You know, we all know Christmas is a special time of year, especially when you're thinking about how much money you're spending. It's very expensive. So we all have our budgets. We all have our plans for Christmas. And out of the blue, around December 1st, so this was not, for most people, this was not planned. So around December 1st, very little notice, we had an opportunity to take care of Christmas for several families at Howell Elementary. And so that was publicized for really about a couple of weeks, and that was it. And people responded, and we were able to give gifts, multiple gifts for each child. Give gifts to 45 kids, and those kids represented 18 different families. And in addition to that, we were able to give a grocery gift card to each family. And so that was one thing that I think, you know, that right there is evidence that people are embracing this idea of creating margin in the budgets. And stuff like that can happen when we do that. All right, so that's the report from 2011. Now, just a few things moving forward. So the stated goal for 2012 regular giving is going to be $125,000. So it's up $15,000 from our stated goal from last year, but it's only up $3,000 from what was actually received. And so hopefully this goal will be far surpassed. And just a few highlights for what may be possible and actually has already been enacted in some cases going forward. First, I mentioned the $32,000 that we have in the bank now going forward. From that, we do have some base funds that can be set aside for more permanent facilities when that opportunity comes about. As we all know, if anything is ever going to be purchased, a down payment is necessary, and so this is really the basis for that. And that comes out of the surplus from last year, and we didn't actually spend all of our budget anyway, so that makes it even better. Second, we have really for the first time that I'm aware of significant resources for leadership, and that's an area where we needed to pour some more dollars. And so just to be specific on that, first, Chad is getting the first raise I think he's gotten in 5, 6, however many years it's been full-time, Chad. So Chad, we can celebrate Chad is actually getting a raise this year, and we all know his kids are getting older. Life's not getting any cheaper. So Chad gets a raise. Second thing to celebrate, Angel came on staff a couple of years ago, pay-wise, on a very, very part-time basis. She works much more than what she's compensated for. For this next budget year, we're able to move her closer to being in line with the amount of work that she puts in. And then finally, we also are well aware that Angela has been leading in the area of worship for quite some time, and she hasn't been paid anything. And so we're able to now give her a stipend going forward. So great things in the area of leadership. And then finally, some additional missions giving is going to be possible. The one thing that I can say for sure is the support that we're giving the Huxleys. We're doubling that going forward. Hopefully that will even increase more because what they're doing is very, very close to everyone's hearts here. And so that's kind of a high-level summary of things. And if you want any more details, feel free to ask.
And because people sometimes get a little hazy-eyed when you start talking numbers, we want to continue to put faces to those numbers. So Andy and Tori, if you will come up here, and Angela also, if you'll come up here. The budget is sometimes a stale thing to talk about. At the same time, I think for us as a community, it is a very exciting Moses, Exodus 15, celebrate. Why is God great? Because of the things that he does in our community. And so as a result of moving forward in 2012, as Eric already mentioned, Angela has the capacity to start somewhat getting a stipend for her monthly continued effort in leading us in worship. And so we're really excited about that. You guys know Angela, you know her heart, you know her talent and her gift and her huge desire for people to connect with Jesus. And so we're really excited to begin to express our thankfulness to her through some monetary movement. And then Tori and Andy, who you guys also know, they've been around for quite a while. They started Second Mile as freshmen at Pima and U of A, and they got involved in our ministry, and they've been involved in various ways. But as they have gotten more involved, God has really kind of placed on their heart a desire to investigate more full-time ministry. What does this look like to really live in and out of day all the time? And so they are moving towards an internship with Second Mile, of which they will get a small stipend. But part of that vision of them being interns is actually for them to keep a part-time job in the city to continue to engage with people who do not share their same worldview in our city of Tucson. So many of you know Andy is continuing to work at Applebee's, and Tori works at Starbucks, and our hope is they will continue to live missionally in those environments, and that will be part of their expectation as interns here at Second Mile. But in addition to that, Tori is going to be giving a lot of focused energy on the children's ministry, which if you've been around Second Mile for any length of time, we've been praying for significant people to step up in the area of children's ministry. And so this is a huge answer to prayer, as Tori is going to be giving huge effort to the children's ministry in her internship. And then Andy, it's a couple-fold of what he's going to be giving his attention to. One is in the area of youth. We have 4 youth right now, and in a couple of years we'll have many more, because we have a pretty large 4th grade, 3rd grade class. But we're excited to have Andy begin to invest in our youth and really expand what God might be doing in that area. So we expect great things from Andy and those 4 people. But in addition to the youth, obviously he's going to have a little bit more time on his hands, and so he's going to really be partnering with me and others who already give through volunteering efforts of leadership in Iron and Iron. So he's going to be actively participating in what's going on with Iron and Iron. So I'm going to ask them one question that they can answer, and then we're going to pray for all 3 of them as part of the gathering. So the question, which I already told them, and they're still nervous, but is, why are you doing what God has asked you to do, and how did it come about?
I am nervous and I need time to prepare, so I did practice this in front of the mirror this morning just to make sure it was sounding good. But like Chad said, I'm Tori, and I'm going to be spending the majority of my efforts in kids ministry. And about 5 years ago or so, I got an opportunity to go with the church that I was attending at the time to kids camp. It was my 2nd summer getting to go, and I got to hang out with third and fourth grade girls, and I got to see 3 girls in my cabin choose to follow Jesus that week. And that was really the first time that God made it very clear to me that kids ministry was going to be a part of the purposes that he had for my life. And I remember thinking, wow, that's really great. That sounds fun. I like kids and I like Jesus, so that seemed perfect. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized that the plan that I had for my life, I couldn't have if I chose to do that. And so I really ran from that idea and really what God had for me. And so I graduated from high school. I came to U of A, and I wasn't really happy about being here because I came from Big Bad Phoenix, and no one likes Tucson up there. And so I was not really excited about being here, but I started coming to Second Mile, and about a year and a half into me coming into Second Mile, a couple of friends and I went to walking the Second Mile, which I'm sure some of you have been to, where we really talked about our gifts and how God had created us and those types of things. And I was brought back to that moment in high school when God told me that I was supposed to do kids ministry. And I remember sitting right next to Nikki Bain, and she looked at me and she's like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was like, at the time I was pursuing nursing, and I told her, I was like, I can't do nursing. And she was like, "Why?" And so then I ended up telling her the story about what God had really laid on my heart. And so really 2 years ago, I began to dream and really hope that this moment would come, and I didn't think that it ever would. And about a year ago, Chad came and approached me and asked me to prayerfully consider being an intern. And so for the past year or so, I've really just been preparing and praying and waiting for this moment. There's been many times when I wanted to quit school just so I could start earlier, but I've just been really encouraged by so many people in this body of believers just to pursue that, and have really grown to love the kids and families of Second Mile. And so I'm really, really excited about this opportunity because for me it really is a dream come true.
So I do want to say that when I started working with youth, it was 2, so we've already seen 100% growth. But I think when I got back from East Asia, I really had it on my heart to start doing more with Second Mile, and specifically in the area of youth. When me and Susie started working with them, it was really a lot of fun, and I really felt like God had me there for a reason. It was something I wanted to pursue. So when the senior year came around and I started thinking what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, I really felt like God was telling me ministry, which was kind of a surprise to me because ministry had not been an idea until that point. But I prayed through it and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then when Chad approached me about the internship, it kind of seemed like the natural next step in doing ministry. So.
And Angela, your question, which you didn't give brief beforehand, is simply, what are you excited about for 2012 when it comes to worship music?
Okay, I think. I'm excited. Okay, I'm going to go from an individual perspective to a corporate perspective. But individually, I'm really excited to grow as a leader, to grow in the realm of learning what it means in a biblical way to lead others into the presence of God, and for God to expand my understanding of that, as well as individually being more and more equipped to lead a team of instrumentalists and people who have a heart to lead others. And so I'm really excited to tighten up our team dynamics and grow as a team so that we can be excellent at what we do in leading Second Mile into music worship. And as a whole, on a corporate level, well, starting off, I think I'm so excited for the week of prayer and fasting, especially the Friday night that we come together and pray and worship together, because I feel like the moments when we do those things as a community, where we can stop and just say, let's just focus on worship and prayer, I feel like that's what catapults us into the year. And so I'm excited for that first, and for the long term, for the year. I'm not only excited to grow in numbers as a body, but to see people realize what it means for them to connect with their Creator through music. I tell people throughout this body that I say, you're my worship leader, and you're my worship leader, and you're, because when I'm up here and I'm looking out, I get so encouraged and my heart gets so full to watch you guys worship, and it makes me want to go that much further into pressing in with Jesus. And so I'm excited for us to grow in those ways, because I don't feel like we're a cookie cutter model. I feel like God is going to create our music worship identity as a body, and I'm really excited to see that grow in 2012.
So, as you guys know the routine, I'm going to ask Tori and Andy and Angela to kind of move around, spread out among you. And if you guys will surround them, and I'll say go, and let's just lift them up and pray for this new season that God has for them, and get excited. And then there'll be a couple different things that we close the gathering with. But if you guys will get up and gather around them, that would be awesome. All right, I'm going to say start, and then after that, you guys can pray out loud all together, and then I will close us in prayer. Ready? Start. God, as we reflect on Exodus 15, as we see reasons to celebrate your greatness, we see 3 individual lives that you are moving through, and you are developing, and you are expanding not only their giftedness, but their desire and their ability and their longing to really trust you in what's next. God, and I pray specifically for Angela. I pray that you would continue to give her a huge heart for your glory and to expand who you are among your children as we, as a body of believers, gather together to celebrate and to worship. Jesus, I pray that you would give her vision, that you would give her strength, that you would give her the power of influence, that you would give her the time that she needs as she continues to be a wife and a mother to dedicate and devote time to what you are asking her to do for 2012. I thank you that her family has come to our church, and that you have continued to bless us through the DeSotos. And God, I pray that we would see such a huge movement of synergy that happens, because even now we get to somehow, although it's small, to tangibly thank her as coming more on to what we're doing and not simply as a volunteer. God, I also thank you for Tori, and thank you for her love of life and her sense of humor and her desire to really get down on her knees and work with the children. God, I pray that you would continue to expand her influence among the lives of our children in this church, that you would explode the children's ministry, that we would see more and more families come to who you are creating us to be as a church, and that Tori's excitement and youth and zealousness for what you are doing in no way would be a deterrent, but would just expand the vision that you have for the children's ministry. God, I pray that you would give her strength and endurance as she works at Starbucks, that you would give her power of influence when it comes to continuing to develop relationships with people who do not share the same worldview, and that we would see her character and her dependence on you strengthened because of the role that she is submitted to be part of in this season of her life. God, we also thank you for Andy. We thank you for his sense of humor. We thank you for his tremendous ability to come alongside what you're doing and to lead others to join him. God, I pray that as he invests in my kids and in the other youth of this church, that you would give him tremendous insight into the life of teenagers, that you would allow him to speak truth, but to do it in a way that they embrace it and are challenged by it, and that they would definitely choose to love and continue to be faithful to you because they see that example in Andy. God, I pray that you give him strength to engage in his workplace at Applebee's, to tell other people about who you are and why you have him working at this church. And God, that you would strengthen his character and develop him to continue to be the man that you have created him to be. And God, I also pray that you would give him influence among the men of Second Mile, that he would begin to see your vision for the development of others for your kingdom. We love you, and it's in your name that we pray. Amen. As you guys find your seat, there is one thing that I have become very aware of in my life, and that is that I am a horrible time manager when it comes to how many things I want to accomplish in a gathering. It just doesn't happen. So, but the thing about it is nothing took place tonight that I feel like didn't need to happen, and so I'm just going to chalk it up to God wanted what would happen tonight to happen tonight, and so I'm very excited for that. And so I would encourage you, if you didn't get a chance to take in a couple of the stations that you would maybe walk by them on your way out, I would strongly suggest that if you didn't get a fasting handout, that you get one of those tonight so that you can think about it through the week. Next week, we won't go into Exodus at all, and I will do what I planned on doing tonight for fasting and for prayer, and actually be able to get a little even further and deeper involved in that topic so that we as a church are ready to really engage in what God has for us next week. So those of you that have been wanting answers, I apologize. But you will just have to meditate and ask God to kind of show you what's going on this week, and we will start next Sunday really getting involved in what's going to happen that following week. So we will have the stations up next week, so if you didn't get a chance to go by them this week, you'll have that opportunity next week to go by them. And I think that's pretty much it. Let me pray to kind of close us. And thank you so much for being part of Second Mile. There are so many reasons to celebrate as we move forward in 2012. And the money actually just gets me really excited. You guys are faithfully giving to what God is doing. And if you look around and you ask a stereotypical churchgoer that lives and resides in the city of Tucson, and they looked at this group of people, and then they looked at the numbers on the screen, there is no way that they would have guessed that you could be as faithful with your money and with your finances as the way that you have been faithful. So thank you. We are so encouraged by what God is doing. So let me close this, and then you guys have a great evening. God, we want to simply acknowledge that you are great. God, when we read about Moses' life, and we read about the plagues, and we read about you parting the Red Sea, and great, amazing musical pieces are put together that become a song of a generation, sometimes we lose sight that you are doing as significant of things in our own lives. And so, God, I pray that tonight, as we look with hope with what you are accomplishing in us as a church, hope of what you're doing in the lives of individuals who have said, you know what, God, I want to do this, and you're enabling them to step out in faith because they are not making lots of money, and they are not completely supported with everything, but you are steadfast and trustworthy in their life. God, I pray that as we look at those things, that we would see that you are trustworthy in our lives as well. And that we would see that you are doing great things in us, and that you do them for a purpose. You do them for us to acknowledge that, God, you in fact are great. That you are the creator of all things. But you also do them with the purpose of us opening our mouths and living lives of action that share the truth of the gospel with the people that we interact with on a normal, daily, routine basis. God, I pray that you would convict us. I pray that you would put that face and that conversation and that individual in the forefront of our minds that we should be praying for, that we should be talking to, that we should be engaging in conversation about the truth and the light and the presence of your Son. Jesus, thank you for this evening. And I pray that as we continue to acknowledge that you are God, that it would resound as a pebble that is thrown into a still lake, that ripples upon ripples upon ripples would take place because you are moving in the lives of the people who call Second Mile their home. We love you, and it's in your name that we ask all of these things. Amen.